Hello, this is Mark A. Wilson, Dr. E. from La Cañada High School. This is Lecture 7 for the Population Unit, Topic 3.7, Total Fertility Rate. Okay, the learning objective here is to try to explain the factors that affect it and basically be able to understand and be able to analyze what the data means. So total fertility rate is the average number of children a woman will have throughout her lifetime for that particular population. The higher the total fertility rate, the more kids she has, the higher the birth rate's going to be, and generally the higher population growth rate. Replacement level fertility is the number of kids required to replace mom and dad and keep it stable. Now, that would definitely change when you're growing rapidly versus growing slowly. The total replacement level fertility is 2.1 in developed countries. In other words, they're just replacing mom and dad. Where it's higher in less developed countries or developing countries, because a lot of the kids are dying. Infant mortality rate is the number of deaths of children under the age of 1 per 1,000 people in the population. In less developed countries, it's higher. Why? Because they lack health care, clean water, and enough food. If they don't have those, they're going to get sick and or starve to death. The higher the infant mortality rate, the higher the total fertility rate, because they have to have enough kids to replace mom and dad, especially in a less developed country where the kids later on are going to be supporting mom and dad. So the global total fertility rate versus the infant mortality rate. Notice that it is higher, the global total fertility rate and the global infant mortality are higher in those countries, such as the African countries, those around in here, where they're basically the same. Both of them have very high, less developed countries. Here, the infant mortality rate and total fertility rate is going down. The infant mortality rate, why? Because we have more access to clean water, better access to health care, such as hospitals, making sure you take your vaccines, you have vitamin supplements for both mom and dad and babies, and more reliable food supply. If you have food all the time, you're not going to have kids dying, and therefore they're not going to have to be replaced, so mom and dad can be taken care of later on in life. So factors that affect total fertility rate: the more affluenza that you have, the more developed you are, the more wealthy you are, they have a lower total fertility rate because fewer babies die. Women are more educated. Women have more economic opportunity. If they're going out and working, making a living, they don't have the time to have babies. They have higher access to family planning. Family planning doesn't mean you're going out and having birth control. It means you're going to be able to decide how many kids you want. How many kids do you need? Plus, then you need the contraceptives. When you have kids at about 14 versus 30, the generation time is much smaller with age 14, and therefore you're going to have a much higher growing country. If you're waiting to age 25, 30, which is happening oftentimes in the United States, you're going to have fewer and fewer kids for the population. We're going to need less children to provide income through agriculture. When you're in an agricultural labor, you need lots of kids to help support you. Support being able to take care of the cattle, be able to take care of sowing, weeding, and stuff like that. government policy can play a big role, either by forceful, like what happened in China, or non-coercive, like what happened in India. Now, what happened in China was there was a huge, you were only allowed to have one kid. Well, every family wanted to have a male, and therefore a lot of the females were aborted. Sometimes the people are forced or sterilized after one kid. There was China's now two-child policy. Sometimes you get tax incentives to get fewer kids. That can be very helpful also. You get loans to women to start a business. Therefore, they're less likely to have kids. Now, births per children by income level, what we can see here is that here, this is the number of births, which is fairly high. And as it goes down, the amount of money earned by those individuals goes up. The less money you make, the more likely you're going to have more and more and more births, because the babies are dying, and they're going to have to help you out in the field to keep your family supplied with food. So there's more access to contraceptives and family planning. The educational opportunities for the females in particular are available. The economic opportunities are available. They require time, which means less time for raising the kids. The lower infant mortality rate, the lower the total fertility rate. In other words, if you're able to take care of the kids because you have enough food, you have enough money, you're going to have fewer kids total. Women education is the same thing. As you get more and more education, the number of kids that you have go down. Why? Because more education, you're going to have fewer unplanned, because you know basically how it works. More education, more job opportunities for women. In other words, they're outside the home making money for the family. It's also because you're making more money, more education, you don't have to marry young. You're not going to be forced to marry. So let's look at the FRQ. Can you identify and discuss two of the causes for the trend in the worldwide total fertility rate? One, what is the decrease? And then you have to discuss the two causes for the decrease.